So we just triple lured this area. Let's see how many people show up. Who's been playing Pokemon Go anyway?
Everybody.
Oh, fair enough.
Everybody.
Everybody's been playing it. We're saying that living in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's not even supposed to be played here, but we're playing it and we're loving it and we're spending money on it and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Pokemon Go a little bit here.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So yeah, we triple lured this area. We'll see how many people show up around us. We did this the other day, and I think within 15 minutes there was a good 20 people, which we live in a small province. That's pretty impressive, actually. We didn't expect that at all. So,
yeah, it's surprising, like, just how many people are playing this game. Like,
yeah,
that's what's so crazy. It's just like it's everybody. Like, even people who don't normally play games.
Yeah, man, and
people
like,
haven't played Pokemon before.
The community that's building around it is really interesting over the Facebook group. Like, it's jumped 100 likes in like a day.
Yeah,
like, which is
huge.
Pretty awesome. CBC just did an interview with them, so obviously it's going to get quite a bit bigger as like older people are going to be like, "What's this Pokemon they're playing?"
Yeah,
all that stuff. But so, what do you think of it? We've played for a couple days now. What are your thoughts?
The game itself, certainly interesting. Part of it, in a way, just is not like Pokemon is. You know, Pokemon's like very much kind of RPG-like, and the only kind of RPG this thing has is numbers go up.
People love watching numbers.
They do.
Love watching numbers.
They do really like the numbers going up. But
yeah,
it's interesting in that sense because it is purely just like that's all the enjoyment is watching numbers go up. But it feels good. It does feel good.
I'd say there's more than numbers going up, though. When you see a Pokemon that you love, like a Pikachu, pop up, you're like, oh,
yeah,
I love like, you know what I mean? You get that, like, it brings you right back to the 90s, is what I was saying the other day. And, you know, it's just like, I think it's more than the numbers. There's some things that the game doesn't do, but the game causes to happen that are just awesome, where people are walking around like, oh, man, I'm going to level up my Rattata and get me some Pidgeys. And you're just like, what is this right now? Like, what? You know what I mean? It's like you stepped into like a time warp back into the 90s.
I think a big part of that is because one game that this game has, that the original games did too, is like that sense of discovery.
Yeah.
Finding out how things work and like finding new stuff.
Oh, yeah. And people are like, yo, man, if you touch your Pokeball, you can get it back. It's like, I can? And you can do a spin ball, just like back in the day when people would be like, if you keep tapping B, you can get it. Or there's that truck off the SSN where you could totally find Mew. And everyone's trying to find... Mew wasn't there, just as a heads up.
Yeah.
But
it's really, really funny how cool it is. And, you know, one of the funny things, too, is it's gotten me to walk through new parts of town. Yeah. I haven't walked through it before.
And I've seen on the Facebook group that, like, people are saying, I've never gotten this much exercise before. And, like, I believe them. Like, they actually haven't. And you see them posting their pictures. Like, it's only been out for a couple days. Yeah. And they're talking, like, 26 kilometers, 28 kilometers. Like, decent amounts that are actually going to get people to go outside, which is fantastic. And I mean, I heard some people saying, oh, it's pretty sad that I'm doing this. It's not sad. It's everyone has to start somewhere. And it seems like this is actually being an incentive for some people to get outside and to actually start walking around. But on that note, with people walking around, I have to caution, be careful, because I'm surprised we haven't had anything locally yet, but I'm sure there's been some bigger, look, we got a drove coming in here. Anyway, so we haven't had anything locally yet, but I imagine there's going to be some accidents that occur from people not looking when they're crossing the road, which, like, it sounds silly for me to say, but, like, you get engrossed in it, and you're, like, you're not even thinking walking into anywhere. So people definitely have to be careful.
Definitely. You just walk across roads looking at your phone, and that's not safe. Look both ways.
So I wonder, is there a way in the, in the software if they could help with that? I mean, they do have the message that says beware of your surroundings, but, like, is there
I don't know,
anything they can do?
Thing is, like, when I'm walking around with my phone kind of like this and looking down, and that's what the issue is. If I had my phone up like this, look forward, I'd actually see, like, danger that I'm walking
most
into.
of it. Yeah.
I don't know. We need cameras, like, on the top of our phones shooting out.
Maybe. I definitely think some of the benefit is the fact that it does have the AR aspect going on, which, aside from it looking cool, you can see a car if it's coming. You know what I mean? If you have your face in your phone, you're not you just have the peripherals. You may not see something, but you can see that object and you're like, oh, I'm here. Like, you know what I mean?
It's definitely good, like, when walking down sidewalks and, like, you know, there's somebody in front of you, then you know, like, oh, sidestep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is nice. It's definitely weird, though, with everyone, like, together but apart, because they're there in their phones and they're not really talking to each other.
Yeah, it's funny because, a lot of people are talking about the social aspect of the game, and it is quite social. As in, you know, people are doing a lot of talking about it and, like, getting out together. But when you do get out together, a lot of it's just, like, standing around doing the same thing privately on your phone.
We literally just did that for half an hour. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a social game but it's not. Nothing in the game really right now is social.
Yeah, it's really not hugely social, which is kind of funny because that's what pretty much all mobile games are trying to do, is be more social than the last.
But you get the biggest benefit if you do things socially, because then you get to take over gyms with your buddies. You get to triple lure places like this and get groups coming in behind. You know what I mean? Like you get that social aspect. But I think that's a real improvement that the game could make, is putting some social features in there.
Yeah.
With regards to some type of chat system or trading.
Well, trading is apparently their first
priority
to add back in.
Because that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely needed. Like, it's Pokemon. You need to have that.
You need to have that trading. You need to have that just sense of community, so that, that'd be great.
Yeah,
if
they'd definitely be huge for the game.
And get the mechanics a little bit deeper. Because as of right now, it's pretty light on its mechanics. You catch stuff, you then get candies for those things that you catch, and then you're able to level up based on that.
Yeah.
So, definitely seeing more mechanics in there too. But honestly, it's kind of crazy that this is the first game of this kind, at least in North America, that we've had. And I wasn't sure how people would react to it. I mean, the fact that it has Pokemon attached to it, because that it's definitely a winning IP, it's helped. But isn't that kind of crazy that we have a mobile game like this that's kind of nerdy in concept? Like, you're running around catching things. Like, it's a combination of geocaching and RPG that's just like become a massive success.
Yeah. It's awesome. I think so much of it is the Pokemon brand.
Yeah.
Because like this is the same company that made Ingress, which is technically Google. And Ingress didn't take off. A lot of people said, "Oh, this is pretty cool. Oh, this is cool for people who like geocaching."
Yeah.
But then you slap the Pokemon on top of it, and suddenly it's for everybody, and everybody's loving it.
That's another thing too, where I think honestly, and people may get upset at me about this because like of the Arkham games and things like that, but I think this is the best brand integration into a game we've seen yet.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like it's you are a Pokemon trainer. Like you're not playing as Batman, you're not this, you are a Pokemon trainer, and that's a great embodiment of that IP.
Yeah.
You actually become in that world. And that's pretty fantastic. But that being said, I mean, the game definitely has a lot of things it has to work out. The server's constantly going down, and it's really not that deep. But I'll be interested to see how this game looks in a year's time, and if people are still playing it.
That's what I'm super curious about, is how much retention is this game going to have?
Yeah, because how's the late game going to work? And then something you and I have talked about quite a bit. So let's say in a month's time, we then have new players coming in trying to play.
Yeah.
Are they even going to have fun? Because the gyms will have like CP of 3,000.
Yeah, they're going to be so far behind.
Going to be so far behind, and we were talking about a tier-based system. I really hope they do something like that. Like, if your level's, let's say, 5 to 10, then you can access these tiers.
Yeah.
But, because if that's not the case, there's going to be no incentive for new players to start playing, and then players are just going to start to die off, and it's not going to be fun for the late-level players.
Yeah, like, you need to keep new people coming in and make it like a good experience for them too. And if it's not a good experience, then they're just gonna churn out, and then no fresh meat, and things just die slowly.
Yeah, luckily we're at the start of this, but there's still one guy here that's just like soaring above everyone else. He's a guard, security guard at this park, and this park has a ton of Pokestops in it, so he just runs around and gets them all. His job is to play Pokemon Go, which is pretty interesting. But moving on from the Pokemon Go of it all, Kev.
Yeah.
Have you been playing anything else lately?
I've been playing some Hearthstone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you have.
I've played a fair amount of Magic the Gathering.
EMB. What? What? 5 Stone Daily?
Well, yeah, EMB definitely inspired me to try it out again. Like, because previously, whenever I played it, I just didn't enjoy it, because it's nowhere near as deep as Magic. You have less control over things, and there's no like responses and stuff like that. So it's, I don't know, it's much more simple, slower pace kind of thing. But now that I'm actually kind of playing it more, and like, I think a big difference for me is I made a proper deck.
Right.
Like a deck that I got from the internet, and it's meant to work together. And now I actually feel like I'm playing with like a game plan.
Right.
Instead of just playing a boring Magic.
Yeah, like what does this card do? What is it? Like you actually know what the cards do, and then
I know what I want to do, and I can actually accomplish what I want to do.
And then are you starting to get to the point where you know then how this other player's playing, because you're like, oh, they played this card, so that means they're building their deck around this type.
Yeah, that's definitely something that takes a lot of experience. I don't think I'm there yet because I've only played a couple days worth.
Yeah.
But as you get used to like kind of more of the cards are and things and the combos that people do, then you're kind of more able to kind of predict them, see when they're coming, and play around them.
Yeah, because my only thing right now is I played the campaign like a couple years back when we had that massive snowstorm.
Yeah.
I was trapped with Katie for a while, so I'm like, bring it, let's do this, because I can't stand you. So I did that, and I played through the campaign, and I had some fun with it, but I've really been wanting to get back into it from watching EMB play, and like, the way he talks about it, he's just a really interesting guy in general.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, this person's playing this, so that means they're basing their deck around this. Now, I should have done this, but I misplayed and it's just like, it's really interesting, that analysis.
He's super analytical. It's just who he is, and I think it's why I like make a great game designer once he actually makes some games and gets them out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's also why his Dark Souls stuff is so interesting, because he analyzes like all the lore to it so much.
And that's a game that just begs to be analyzed.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. So it's definitely interesting. Speaking of Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I beat it again for no reason.
Dark Souls 1, right?
Yeah, Dark Souls 1. Yeah, I just played through as a pyromancer. I hadn't done it before as a pyromancer, so I did that, popped through it in about, 7 hours maybe, finished at level 50, so I just kind of
you can do it pretty quick.
Yeah, quickly played through the game. To be honest, I did dupe to up my pyromancy, but sorry, waving at someone. But anyway, just to up my pyromancy and things like that, but that's just a great game. Like,
it's just good.
it's so good. It's like one of those things, like some people have movies that they want to watch every couple of months that just kind of reset themselves. Like, for me, that's Dark Souls. It's like, if I'm just like having a bum time or something, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to play through a run through Dark Souls just because.
Just to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And it's so enjoyable.
It is so enjoyable. So yeah, and I think that's the only game I really do that with. I used to do that with all the Ratchet and Clank games like back in the day, but as of right now, that's the only game I feel I want to do that with.
Yeah.
Because it has so much replayability. My God, is that a ferret?
I think that is.
Oh yeah,
somebody's walking their pet ferret. That's amazing.
Wow. So anyway, yeah. So that's what I've been doing. So you said you had some other stuff to talk about in games. What you got for me?
See what's on my shirt?
Oh no.
We're going to talk about this.
Oh no.
This is the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man.
Was this intentional?
No, I realized this morning, but I do want to talk about this movie because it's something interesting.
Okay.
Everybody hated the trailers. Absolutely everybody. I checked the movie's Rotten Tomato score the other day.
Not that bad.
Not bad. 76 whenever I checked it. It might be different now.
That's better than BVS by a lot.
I know. And it's like, what's going on? Because there's a pandemic happening right now. I feel like there's a pandemic happening where movie trailers are just so bad compared to the actual movie that comes out. I think Warcraft is another prime example of this.
Okay.
The Warcraft trailers just look like stupid, action-y, special effect-laden garbage.
You know what, though? I'm going to fight that. And I'm going to fight that because of this. I'm going to fight that because you have Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Makes awesome trailers. Not great movies. Batman vs Superman, those trailers, I don't care what anyone says, those trailers were awesome.
Do you know what
They were awesome.
Directors have next to no control on the trailers.
Well, maybe he doesn't. He makes shots that can look good in a trailer.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Because
he does.
those trailers looked amazing. Another trailer that looked awesome, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. That trailer looked, Bebop and Rocksteady in there. I mean, I wasn't too high on it because of the last one, but, James Bay is involved in this one.
Yeah.
That was good. And the movie was just okay, but that trailer was awesome. So I feel we're getting a lot of awesome trailers, actually.
Yeah, I feel like
it's our
the
bar
good
for
movies
trailers
that are getting bad trailers. Is how I feel it. Like, I think this is actually going to happen with Assassin's Creed as well, because if you look at it, it just seems like action-packed. And then I read about it.
The trailer looks boring.
I read about it, and apparently, like, those action scenes are only when, like, they go into the Animus, and that's, like, 10% of the movie, maybe. Apparently.
In Assassin's Creed, I mean, maybe a lot of people don't feel this way because of the action bits, but Desmond is the most interesting character, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Nolan North really brings some life to that character. And if there's anyone who can do it, it's Michael Fassbender. That guy is
he's a fantastic actor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the greats of our time right now, for sure. So I certainly hope he doesn't fizzle out. So you think that, eh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think
Interesting.
We're seeing way too many bad trailers for good movies.
Yeah.
And I think it's something to do with marketing.
Mm.
And I had this funny little thought the other day
What's that?
about marketing people.
Okay.
So you know how it's their job to sell people stuff?
Yeah.
And that's what they're good at? They mean they're also selling people the concept of marketing itself.
Yes.
So marketing is actually probably not as strong as general populace actually thinks it is.
It's because marketers
It's
are good at marketing.
marketers are telling you it's better than it
That
is.
cause them to believe it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, people who say that marketing doesn't work, they're dead wrong.
Oh yeah, it definitely
It
works to some
absolutely
degree.
works.
Like, yeah, it's pretty simple. If you don't know about anything at all, you're never gonna spend money on it. If you know about something, there's a chance you can spend money on it. And the more you're reminded about that, the better. And
Yeah,
it's
like,
done all over the place.
and I consider myself not someone who was really not super into advertisements or TV or anything like that, but like I definitely had this experience like when you and I moved out. It was the first time moving out of the house,
Yeah.
moved in together as roommates, and I was like, I'd never bought in paper towels before. And I was
Yeah.
like, I know Bounty. Like I know this brand. And then I think we bought that. And then like some other things like that. It's just I know this brand. I trust this brand. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's because of commercials. It's because
Yeah,
of radio
definitely.
advertisements and things like that. Like it just
if you're
gets-
familiar
it
with
gets in
something,
your head.
it's a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you know what though? Something else that's interesting about Ghostbusters, you may not even know this. You know there's a game coming up for the movie.
I didn't know that.
Just leaving it out to die. Yeah. I thought we were past this. I thought we were past the big IPs.
I was hoping.
You know, trying to tie together a movie that probably has a terrible budget and not near enough time to actually make it and just hang the studio out to dry.
Do I-
Because that's what
honestly-
used to happen.
I feel like they might always happen until the end of time.
You,
And the
I'm-
reason we haven't seen them recently is because it's new consoles and more expensive to develop for.
Again, I'm going to fight that. We're fighting each other all day today because Disney changed up their plans. They're not just going to sign a deal with EA anymore, or Activision, I should say. They're not doing that. They're not getting Beanox to do that. No, they're going to people now, and this is their new plan. They're going to people who know how to make games.
That's good.
That's why we're getting that Insomniac Spider-Man game.
Yeah.
Which is like perfect. And I feel like we're going to get more things like that. Like imagine I don't even know. Like, you know, I'm at a loss for words. I'm just so interested in things like that. Like, you have some studios that can make some really, and imagine an Avalanche Hulk game. Those are the guys that made Just Cause. Like the carnage that could be in that game.
Yeah.
It
there's
would be
definitely
awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of like really good IPs that like could be put into games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like a lot of times people are just gonna have an IP and they just want some cheap money from a game and they get some cheap publisher or cheap developer to make a cheap game.
But it doesn't work, and that's why you don't have the middleware anymore. You don't
Yeah.
have your THQs because they got taken out because you had your indies that were a lot cheaper, and then you have your AAAs.
Yeah,
right
which
now,
are
and
big budget.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the two spots we have, and there's not much for middleware. What it seems like is happening as the indies are kind of taking over that middleware section because you have those. If it's a team of like 50 people, I mean, it's still technically an indie, but like it's a smaller indie team. So that's where you're starting to get your A-level games.
Yep.
And things like that. But yeah, man, it's really interesting to see what's going to shake down with all that.
Yeah.
But I think we live in an age now where you can't put out 6s and 7s for games. Like your game is not going to do well. And you don't have dumb kids going into their GameStop and being like, oh, I don't know, I see games every once in a while in a magazine, maybe this. No, people are informed now.
They're very informed, and there's so many good games too.
Exactly, there's so many good games because people are getting better at making games, and people who are making games now grew up playing games.
Yeah.
And you have informed people, you have personalities. You're not going to have just garbage games sell a ton.
Yep.
I mean, my game only got downloaded by 10 people, so that's a sign of that. So anyway, what do we got next?
So we had this kind of interesting conversation at work, which wasn't really about this, but kind of prompted me to think about. We were talking about basically mixing of genres. And basically, you know, a big part of it was, you know, you can't just take two genres and mix them. You need to break down the mechanics.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So then I was thinking about, how do you break down the mechanics of a genre?
It
It's
depends
very-
on the genre.
Well, see, if it's a really simple genre like Match 3, you can probably do it. However, if you look at something like RPGs, then you're not going to be able to do it, like, at least not super easily, without looking at the, instead of like breaking down the mechanics of the genre, breaking down the mechanics of the game. it's pretty easy to break down the mechanics of Skyrim, right? You can just say, like, there's all these pieces. But if you think of the genre as a whole, that RPG is like, okay, well, you know, what mechanics does it need to include? But then there's some games that are in that genre that don't include some of those mechanics. So you only take the necessary ones, and you'll find, like, there's some genres where you can make a game within that genre without taking any of those necessary mechanics.
Well, I think a key mechanic of most RPGs seems to be a leveling system of some sort or some type of experience system. And I think that's pretty much the key way that, like, all games have blended with RPG. That's where, like, technically Call of Duty has RPG elements to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has that leveling system. But going further than that, that's certainly interesting because, I mean, I could say that exploration is a key aspect of role-playing games, but there are definitely linear role-playing games that don't really have much for exploration.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, like, think about, like, combat mechanics as a whole, because, see, what's really interesting is because, you know, Call of Duty is actually one that got brought up in the conversation, and if you take, basically what they did is they took Call of Duty and they recognized that, hey, we don't have any kind of midterm goals for our players.
Yeah.
And that's when they brought in the
leveling system and the
prestiging
and stuff.
And, you know, it was that kind of recognition of, let's take our game, let's break down all the mechanics, and then they recognize there's a hole in the kind of midterm goals for the players. And then they took RPGs and broke down the mechanics of the RPG, and then seeing, oh, hey, leveling is going to fit in here well. And they've seen, like, what parts of it can tie together well. So they add, like, the classing stuff, outfits, or whatever they call them, loadouts. And seeing that, like, oh, we can unlock items and stuff. And, like, so they managed to see how their game ties in with other genres. And I think this is really important because if you are able to see what the core mechanics of a genre are, then that's when you can start tying them together.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to bring up, too. I was actually thinking of that while you were saying it, and then I tuned in, and I was like, oh, he's saying what I'm thinking right now. Yeah. So, like, something I was going to bring up was adventure games.
Yeah.
So let's say we break down adventure games. Well, a big aspect of those is exploration. It certainly seems that way, or some type of choice.
Yep.
And that can definitely be said for an RPG.
Yep.
So seeing, like, an RPG adventure game, that just makes sense because they have tying aspects. So now, if we're going to have two genres that don't have any overlap, can we think of two like that? And is there a game that we can think of that combines those two?
Yes, actually. So this is what we were talking about, because I work for a mobile game company, and basically Match 3 kind of gets paired with everything.
Everything.
Yeah. And
well,
I think there's some good examples, because they've paired Match 3 with RPG before, and that's Puzzle Quest or Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest, I think, was the first one.
But I'm going to say
Quest,
something.
Maybe.
I don't think RPG is, or I don't think Match 3 is a genre. I think it's a mechanic.
It is, yeah.
How is that a genre? How many underlying things does it have in it? The basic idea of a Match 3 game is that 3 things match up, right?
Yeah, so when I say Match 3, I also
mechanic.
mean, like, you know, the Match 2 and the Match 4s.
I see what you're saying.
Like, that's our puzzle. That one puzzle, I guess.
That one type of puzzle, does that really constitute a genre?
I don't know, people treat it like it's a genre. Certainly.
It's definitely a mechanic, and there's different genres that can tie into it, I think. Like adventure games, like you were saying, and like action-based games and role-playing games like that.
Yeah.
But interesting. I would have never thought of a Match 3 or whatever, a matching game like that as a genre.
Yeah, certainly.
I would think of that as
certainly
like
thought as a genre. I think it's
in the casual genre.
Puzzles, probably.
Yeah, I guess puzzle. Yeah, casual is too broad. But yeah.
It's like arcade, puzzle, casual. Like, it's all those.
Very similar. Very similar.
You know, that's kind of another one of the issues. Is genre is just such a bland word. Like,
it's just
such a vague word, I guess.
It's a way for, if I'm trying to tell you about a game and for you to quickly understand it in an elevator pitch, I can give you one word and then you have an idea of other games that are like that.
Yeah.
That you can associate with in your head.
Yeah.
That's what genres are there for. It's just like with music as well. Like, I mean, there's a million genres now, and you know what I mean? So it's definitely, you can get into the weeds on it if you want, but there's only a couple of genres of games, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, maybe that is some of the issues, like when we're talking about mixing genres, is it's very hard to just mix two vague things because in the end they're vague.
Yeah.
and there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting. So, moving on from that, I have something totally not gamesy to talk about. Unless you do more game stuff?
Probably.
Okay, well, I'm going to move on to it anyway.
Cool.
So, right now, we're set up outside. There's probably like, I don't know, I'm going to say a good 50 people around.
Yep.
50 or 60 people around. I guarantee you, a year ago, I never would have done this.
Yeah.
And that's because of this YouTube stuff we do. Because we have people who ask sometimes, they're like, why do you continue to do it if you're not successful at all? Which I wouldn't say we are. Number one thing I always say is because there's actually people like yourselves that watch this and enjoy it. And the conversation that we get out of the comments, I love so much. Like, it's totally a selfish thing, but the fact that like people have something to say with what I have to say is awesome. It's like finding a common ground. It's like finding a Reddit group that you just fit into. And that's really fantastic. But the other thing is the fact that it's kind of changed me a little bit as a person, I would say. Like, take, for example, 2 weeks ago, I did a color run, and there was about, 2,000 people around, a good amount. Mm-hmm. I was dressed up like a total moron. I had a Prince Edward Island flag on. I had a hat. I was all done up. I had, like, tattoos all over me. The only person there dressed up out of 2,000 people, I couldn't give a care at all. And I definitely know I wouldn't have been like that before, but it's like, you have to have a confidence when you're on camera, and you have to have something like that definitely changes you. Like, I don't care that people are looking at us right now or waving, or you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
staring at.
I have a thing that I need to get done, and I'm just willing to do that. And like, that's starting to show into my work as well, as like, I just kind of come into a situation like I own it a little bit.
So much more confidence.
Exactly. And I never used to do that. So have you noticed any differences kind of in yourself just from doing this?
Absolutely. Like, I think one thing that has definitely held me back before is just being too nervous to do something.
Yeah.
Like, I do get quite anxious about stuff sometimes. Just like,
you definitely do more than I do.
Yeah. And I feel like the anxiousness is different than the nervousness. Yeah. You know, the anxiousness is just kind of like, oh, it's just an emotional feeling right now. Just something like, it's just my state of being. Whereas the nervousness is like a reaction to like the thought of doing something. And that doesn't happen so much anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't. You did look a little nervous, so I'm going to say, whenever I was like, I'm going to go to the washroom, you're like, okay. Just because you're like, you had all this, I don't know, it looked like you were a little anxious.
No, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, okay, nice.
I was thinking about like battery life, and how long it was going to take. And like, I was thinking, where's the washroom too? I don't know where the closest washroom is.
Oh, right over there. Yeah. A funny story about the washroom. So I was peeing. I thought the door was locked, wide open. Guy walked in, saw my wiener, waved at him. It's funny. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no. I've felt way better, like, especially now that we're coming out into public and just kind of talking. And
yeah.
We've made steps up too. The first time it was our backyard, and there was actually neighbors right next door.
Which was weird.
Look, but it's just a couple people, right?
Yeah.
And like, they quickly realize what you're doing, and they're there the whole time. Next step up from that is we went to a school where there was pretty much nobody, but we were much more exposed.
There were some cars going by, you know, people could see us.
Now we're in the middle of a park, and there's a beautiful summer day, and there's a lot of people here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's like a whole crowd of tourists just going by right now, just gonna wave at some of them. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you start to care less. And I mean, something that I've definitely noticed from you too, just changing from this YouTube stuff, is like, you're really good with Photoshop now.
Oh yeah, I learned a shit ton of Photoshop.
Like, Kev does all our thumbnails and stuff. Like, I don't give him enough credit, but like I do the total producer thing. I'm like, hey Kev, can you make this? That's just Photoshop, right? Yeah. But like, yeah, your Photoshop game has been upped significantly.
Yeah, I definitely understand a lot better. It's pretty cool. We've definitely learned a lot from this. Like, editing side too, I feel like we've learned a fair amount.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like, yeah, I actually know what I'm doing in an editor now, and like I do it a lot. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm much quicker at those things, and like I just know how to shoot a scene and how to do things like that. I still think you're a better DP than I am, because you're like super analytical. Yep. It has to be perfect, and that's awesome. That's something you really want to DP. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a lot of things, like lighting and stuff, and like camera work and stuff. I've learned a fair amount about too. Audio stuff, like how to get good quality, and it's the right balance of like different things you want. Yeah, nervousness definitely helped a huge amount though. Yeah. It's kind of funny. There's a video that I did like just for Phoebe where I was just talking and walking, but part of that was down.
I think you could do that better now too. That was only a couple months ago, but yeah,
definitely,
absolutely.
One time I did that was down Route 2 of PEI. So it's like
Busy.
second busiest road. It
Yeah.
should be, like, at least by the
You were
number
going to rush
system.
hour too, weren't you?
Yeah, it just as people are coming home from work. And just walking down, talking into a camera, and then I did a couple cool shots where like I set the camera down on top of a trash can and then like walked by it and like
Yeah.
so like almost everybody who was driving by their car is like looking at me and giving me a look. And, whatever.
It's whatever. And that's I think that's really good for us. I don't know. I've definitely noticed a lot of that change myself. I'm starting to be more active in social media because a big thing for me for like the past years was I'd never want to say anything because I wouldn't want anyone to think I was weird.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think we all kind of get like that, and you become like a or maybe I'm the only one. I don't think so though. But yeah, you just see other people doing these things, and you're like, well, I could do that, but I don't know. I'd be a little scared to do that. But like now, I'm kind of reaching a point where like I don't care. I'm just gonna go do that. If I don't do it perfect, whatever. Who cares? At least I did it, and I'm way steps ahead of the people that don't do it, which used to be me. Because like right now, like my cover photo for Facebook is actually from that video I shot.
Oh yeah,
Did you see that?
seen you.
Yeah, where I'm like a total gorf.
Gorf.
Yeah, a gook and a dwarf. Gook. I did. Jesus, Murphy. Where did the geek? Wow, accidental racist. Anyway, but yeah, man, like it's a goofy picture of me with like 6 of me's just dressed up, and like my sister's face is plastered onto one of them, and Kev did up this awesome sun that's just like spinning around. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I guarantee I'm gonna get questions of people saying that. But like, yeah, I don't know. I definitely think this YouTube thing is very good for us, and I think hopefully tonight we will shoot something that actually starts to push ourselves a little bit to a more of a technical limit.
Yeah, it should be good. I think, that's like writing and stuff too.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But yeah, this has definitely helped me out, like work too. Like I'm getting my voice out more and just talk more and just saying what I think more. And that's always good.
Yeah, man. Just act like there's a camera there.
Yeah.
So, is there anything in the wrap up here that we didn't talk about? Because you said you wanted a lot of game stuff to talk about.
Let me check the camera real quick.
Okay. Kev's checking the camera. I'm gonna give you an advertisement about these sunglasses. Actually, these sunglasses, they popped up in the makeup video, and my brother left them at our place, and I thought they were really funny, so now I wear them. What's up? We good?
Nice. Yeah, okay. We're good. So this is another thing that came up at work, and it's kind of like, what is the balance between creativity and logical, like mechanical thinking?
Oh, that was a deep question. Okay, let me get my thinking cap on here.
It's a very deep one because I've always considered myself better at the mechanical stuff.
Would agree with that.
However, I'm good creatively too, and I think I downplay myself creatively because I think I'm good at the mechanic side, so I must be bad at creative. I don't think those things are necessarily in contrast.
I don't think they are at all.
And I think it's it's something that like people often put them in contrast. Left brain, right brain.
And I think if you excel at one, that doesn't mean that you can't get yourself better at the other.
Yeah.
I think that's a common misconception. I mean, maybe there's some extreme cases where someone has a specific like neural condition where that can't happen. Like, let's say, I don't know, I don't even want to get into the weeds of that, but like there are certainly some instances where that's the case. But for most people, I think you just you put yourself in a box.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're like, well, I'm an artsy person, so I'm just going to be an artsy person. I don't know math. If you're willing to apply yourself, I think you can definitely broaden your horizons by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which I definitely think you've been doing, again, speaking to the Photoshop thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a big outlet of your creativity, or that's certainly how it seems right now. And it seems like, that's just taking over into some other aspects too. But yeah, that's awesome, man, because like I'd always considered myself also a very analytical kind of person.
Yeah.
But lately, I've actually been writing a lot. And just doing these videos has definitely helped with that. And like, I'm definitely starting to really express that like kind of artsy side because I've always like written songs and things like that and, played music. But I'm definitely getting more into like the deeper lyricism of it all. And like, I can actually write. I'm like, oh, cool. Like you're starting to actually get that. And it's interesting.
Yeah, it feels really good. Like today earlier at work, like I was doing some like design and like I had an option for like what to do for like our next project thing, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna take on this mechanic because it's a pretty technical mechanic, and I think I can wrap my mind around it, and I'm working on it, and then my other designers was like, hey Kev, this thing I just don't think I can make it work. I'm like, yeah, sure I can, just make it whatever. and like, something funny is like, oh yeah, that works, and like instantly it went from being like, 1% chance it makes it in to 100% chance it makes it in, because creativity came from somewhere and made it work. And that was the other coin to this is, where does that creativity come from?
I think it comes from doing new things. I think people tend to get into ruts, and I definitely know that I've fallen into this, and I'm trying my best to continue to get out of them. I mean, that's what the whole Tip to Mabel thing was about for Wheezy Waiter, right?
Yeah.
That's so this guy Wheezy Waiter, Craig Benzine, he does vlogs and things like that, and he was getting into a rut of doing those vlogs every single day. So he decided to change up his life, and he changed up his life by making something called Tip to Mabel. It's like things that change your life, whatever. Yeah. And then he started doing that, and he started doing amazing things. But then he was noticing that his rut was then just trying to do those amazing things and put it all on film, and now he's not really producing videos much anymore. But I think he's happier as a person.
Probably, yeah.
And he's definitely doing more creative things. I mean, his video style in that year, because I was subbed to him for a long time, I found his videos were just getting stale, so I unsubbed. And then you started talking to me, you're like, yo man, this guy's videos are awesome. And I checked him out, and they're so much more creative than they were a year ago, because he switched things up, and because he was constantly trying new things and getting himself in shape and just changing his life around a little bit, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
As a total tie around too, I think that may be the end result of a lot of people for Pokemon Go.